Hey guys, welcome back. Today's video is an extra spicy one. So, Bungie just released a brand new video about Marathon. In fact, the first video that they've released, or the first public information at all released since the game was announced like last May. And there's an extra caveat to all of this, right? So I've actually been playing Marathon at Bungie in secrecy since last July. I've done 2 playtests. One was rather short, one was very extensive. I have quite a lot of time in the game now. But the entire time I've been under NDA, which is why I've not been able to speak about it at all until very recently. However, the other day, like 2 or 3 days ago now, Bungie actually reached out to me and said that they're loosening the NDA they were under. And so that means that I can now start to talk about some of the details of the game that you're not going to be able to hear anywhere else. And boy, do I have a lot to talk about. So, today we're going to break down that new video that Bungie released about Marathon, and whilst we're breaking it down, I'm going to add in a bunch of extra details that I've kind of inferred from my time playing Marathon over at Bungie, and then also towards the end I also want to talk about my experiences at Bungie. A litany of reasons, you can probably guess what some of them are, but we're going to talk about that later on. But without any further ado, let's stop the waffle and let's jump in. So the video is pretty much Joe Ziegler, who is Marathon's game director, talking about various elements of the game and the state of the development right now. Now, Joe is, as I said, currently Marathon's game director, but before Marathon, he was Valorant's game director, so he's got a pretty good rap sheet. I actually ended up talking to Joe quite a lot when I was at the studio. In fact, I even had a beer with him at one point. Really nice guy. Had a lot of conversation with him for at least like an hour, if not more than that, talking about Marathon, talking about OG Marathon. We talked about Halo a little bit, various other games. Really nice guy, really cool guy to talk to. So, Joe then reconfirms what Marathon actually is. In short, it's a Bungie extraction shooter with a world filled with hostile AI and players, so PvPvE. The goal is to get out alive, and along the way, through the maps, you complete quests, you find loot, you upgrade yourself or your equipment with said loot, and if you get out safely, then you get to keep all of that loot, whereas if you die or fail to extract, then you lose all of that loot. As Joe describes, Marathon at its core is absolutely the extraction shooter that you would expect it to be, having played any of the other ones. If you've played Tarkov or DMZ, I guess, or any of the other ones like Grey Zone Warfare or the newer ones that are coming out now, you know the formula. Marathon is the extraction shooter formula. However, with a twist. So, your character, or I guess characters, are called runners. And these runners have a small subset of abilities. You can also, just like in Tarkov as well, customize all of their gear, as you would expect. But the thing here is that they have abilities. And it's here where we get to talk a little bit about the leaks that I actually never got around to making a video about a few months ago. So, a few months ago, there was a leak that Marathon had basically changed to be a hero shooter. And when I heard that, I kind of had the same reaction as everyone else. I was a bit like, why? Personally, I can't stand hero shooters. The closest game to a hero shooter that I could say I actually like is Black Ops 3, and I wouldn't really call that a hero shooter. Overwatch, any of the others, I'm not a fan. Conversely, I also love extraction shooters. Well, I love Tarkov in particular. Tarkov is like the one game nowadays that I would say I have an actual clinical addiction to. It was once Halo 3, it was once RuneScape, nowadays it's Tarkov. I'm clinically addicted. That said though, and I don't know how I can say this, I've got to be really careful how I phrase this. The way it comes together isn't what I was expecting, let's put it that way. It's not as brazen as I thought it was going to be. That's probably the safest way I can word it. It's tough because although the NDA has been loosened, I still have to be very careful with what I say. There's a lot of stuff that I absolutely cannot talk about still. So just say that it wasn't what I was personally expecting. And speaking of it being a quote-unquote hero shooter, Joe revealed 2 of the runners in the game. Firstly, this one, Thief, and he didn't really give any details about her, but he did say that her abilities are in line with her name, so kind of infer from that what you will. He then revealed Stealth. Now, this guy is a stealthy runner, as you can imply by the name, and also the picture. You can kind of see some of his traits in the picture. Now, when I was at Bungie playing Marathon, I exclusively played this guy. I'm not going to lie, I may have tried one other runner. I think I only played Stealth, and as Joe said, with Thief, for example, you can infer a lot of the character's abilities, so to speak, from this picture alone. I can't say much else, but I played Stealth a lot. Like, I'm talking like, I probably have like 10 hours in that game, in that runner now. So, yeah. Like I said, I'm still trying to be really careful here. So yeah, despite there being runners in the game, different characters with a small subset of abilities, the gear that you take in is still the most important thing. Quick reminder, if you want to stay up to date with the latest news and lore for either Marathon or Halo, make sure to subscribe. Now, something else that Joe mentioned is the different kinds of objectives in the world. He said that within the map, there's going to be a lot of different objectives, all with their own risk applied to them. Now again, if you've played Tarkov before, you'll know that that's kind of the case with extraction shooters in general. There's certain things that are kind of just staples of the genre, but I will say that there was, I'm not going to give any specifics, but there was something that I was very pleasantly surprised to see kind of integrated into the game that was a blend of two things that I absolutely adore down to like my heart level in gaming that I never expected to see blended, but I was very, very pleasantly surprised when I did. It's something that I think if they really drive home will end up becoming a fan favorite element of the game, and it's something that I personally, how do I put this, have a lot of deep interest in, so to speak. I'll leave it there, infer what you will. And that segues very nicely into the next part, where Joe talks about the world of Marathon. So this Marathon game is still set in the original Marathon's universe, so it's not a retcon, it's not a reboot, it's not a brand new start over with the same brand name. It is still set in very much in the same universe, on the colony of Tau Ceti 4, which you can see beneath you in Marathon 1. And from the original games, Joe said that they're taking some familiar elements, so for example, the mysteries and the eeriness and the overall creepiness of the way the world is kind of presented, and applying it to this, he said new world, but Tau Ceti 4 that you're on isn't a new world, it's the world that's in the background of Marathon 1, and they're using those kind of emotions of mystery and eeriness and creepiness to expand the world over time. Now again, I'm sorry, no specifics here, but there was something that I found that kind of pertains to all this, that when I did not expect to see it in the game, to be honest with you, and when I found it, I quite literally soy-jacked, to be honest with you, and it's quite funny. The guy who literally designed it was stood behind me as I found it. He watched me find it for the first time, and it was quite cool seeing his reaction to my reaction to finding it the first time, because obviously I'm the lore guy, I love Marathon's universe, partly because of how much it ties into Halo, but also just because of the way that the OG Marathon presented its story and its world and its world building. I love that kind of 90s style of it and the way it was presented and themed, and I'll leave that one there. What I will say is, just because this is an extraction shooter, I've said this many times in videos before, but that doesn't mean that they're going to leave the world building and all that stuff by the wayside. If anything, I actually think that a game like this suits OG Marathon storytelling more than if they'd done like a brand new modern single player game. I think the way that modern single-player games work a lot of the time with their story is they present it way too overtly and they kind of silver platter it all, whereas when you have a game where the story isn't the main focus, it can be presented in much more interesting ways. To me, much of the charm and much of my attachment to the original Marathon story was how it was told, as much as what specifically was told. Don't get me wrong, I adore the story and all the narrative points in the original games, but how those narrative points are delivered to the player, the way in which we discover them, and that they're delivered to us, were equally as key in creating the story that we all love so much. And I think that same kind of storytelling actually does work better with an extraction shooter, where your first port of call in a game isn't to just experience the story. It allows the story to be told through more implicit and kind of covert ways in the environment, as opposed to just being served to you on a silver platter in a cutscene, for example. And actually, on the topic of the story, what I will say is that this Marathon ties into the Marathon that I know and love, and that you most likely know and love, way more than I think most people are ready for. Like, way, way more. I was even taken aback myself at that. There's certain things that, like, yeah, let's leave it there, but it definitely ties in. Okay, as for where the game's development is at, Joe said that they've done a lot of aggressive change to the game over the last few years, and, well, I can absolutely single-handedly confirm that they have indeed done a lot of change to the game over the last year. I mean, there have been some leaks about this that you've probably seen. What I will tell you is that, again, from first-hand experience, the term aggressive change, aggressive is not hyperbole in any way, shape, or form. And I mean that in a good way, just not hyperbole. Joe was saying that certain elements, like the environment, for example, are really starting to fully come together. And again, having played both last July and also only a few weeks ago, I can definitely confirm that. But then the other elements, like the enemies, for example, are still in the earlier stages of completion, which again is something that I absolutely noticed and actually flagged for feedback to them. And overall, Joe said that the development is currently on track. It's on time, it's going as planned, which is always good to hear. He then said that they're going to be doing some expanded playtests in 2025, so if you want to help playtest the game, help improve it, help give feedback, then make sure you wishlist the game on Steam, Xbox, or PlayStation Network. The pages should all be up now, so go and wishlist them. And that's pretty much all there is to get from that video, and all the extra details that I think I can add. I might talk to the guys at Bungie and see if there's anything else that I can talk about, and if there's anything that's actually worth it, I'll make another video. But for now, I actually want to talk about my time at Bungie and kind of like why I went and the important details that stem from that, including actually some Halo kind of connection things. You'll see what I mean. So, okay, I've been to Bungie twice to playtest Marathon. Once last July, so like well over a year ago now, and then also, like I said, early October, so a few weeks ago. I was there to give feedback and speak to devs about the game early on and kind of meet a lot of the developers on the game, and actually more on that in a second. There's something you want to hear about that in a minute. Now, one thing that I did hear when I posted that I'd been to Bungie to play Marathon, because obviously Bungie's last year or so has been quite tumultuous, shall we say, and I've made I've pulled no punches in covering that on the channel. Some people were saying that like it's a very small minority, but some people were saying that like I had no integrity because I went to Bungie to play Marathon after making videos about what Bungie had done and like the layoffs and all that stuff. And the way I put it is that like I feel like I've kind of proven my integrity with years of covering Halo. Like I've never been afraid to criticize something about Halo or 343 or Halo Studios now as it is. Like I've never, even though I have an active working relationship with the studio and with the game, I've never been afraid to criticize anything. Even, I never forget when Infinite came out, I criticized the hell out of the microtransactions in that game. Like I went to hell for those micros and I got flamed a lot for that. It was quite, honestly, I had people attacking me quite a lot for that at launch, but I did it because I feel like it was something I cared about, and it was something that I thought the game wasn't doing well. And so, despite the backlash, I criticized it. And that's how I will always be. I will also praise stuff, even if most people, like Infinite's campaign, for example. Like, a lot of people have turned on that. I made a video like 5 minutes ago saying how much I love it still. Like, I feel like my integrity is there. I feel like I shouldn't have to say this, because I've kind of, at least I feel like I've kind of proven the integrity thing over many years of covering Halo and working with 343, despite being very open with any kind of feedback, whether it's positive or negative. So I feel like you don't have to worry about that, but I guess that's all I can say to that. So actually, on that similar note, I went to Bungie for the first time before any of the massive layoffs or anything like that happened. And then I came back, I still made the video that I made, knowing full well, assuming at least that like, if I made the video that I made, criticizing Bungie as harshly as I did, that like, that'd be it for like the Marathon relationship, and I still made that video. And then I got invited back after that, and that, I think that kind of proves, at least to me, that I'm not willing to change my opinion to kind of bow to some upward pressure or whatever, right? As for why I went back after the implosion and after like saying all the stuff that I said in that video, I mean, firstly, the main reason is like I want to be able to give feedback on a game to help improve it, to make sure that stuff like that doesn't happen again, right? If I'm given a 1 in a billion opportunity to do that, I'm gonna take it to try and avoid that from happening again. And also as well, like the Bungie name to me still means a lot. Like modern Bungie is definitely not the Bungie that made Halo 1, 2, 3, ODST and Reach. I'm not gonna sit here and say that it is. I haven't said that for like, well, ever. But at the same time, the Bungie name is still like a big deal to me and to many people. And like, again, if I'm given the opportunity to give feedback on something that can improve that name, then I'm gonna absolutely do it. And another reason that I actually want to help playtest Marathon is that I absolutely love extraction shooters. Well, I say that, I love Tarkov. I've not really been able to get into any of the others, but I love Tarkov. And like, if I can have the opportunity to have an active hand in the development of like a Tarkov rival, hell yeah, of course I'm gonna do that. That's cool as hell. That alone is cool as hell. So that it's just some kind of explanation, kind of reasoning for why I went and why I went back after making that video. I feel like I shouldn't have to say that, but I felt like I just wanted to get it out there anyway. And lastly, the one thing I want to talk about is I saw a lot of people saying that it's not there's no one working on the game that worked on Halo, or that like it's not even slightly the same Bungie anymore. And like, although the overall makeup of Bungie nowadays, like I said, is radically different to the one that made all the Halo games that we love, the people that are saying that there aren't any Halo developers working on it, well, okay, how can I say this? I had a conversation with someone, I'm not going to say who, it's actually kind of public information, you can find it if you need to, about who this person was, but I had a conversation with someone, and I recognized them. It was at lunch one day, I recognized them. It's like, I got talking to him, and it turns out that they were responsible for making, like, one of the, like, top 5, if not top 3 most beloved things about Halo, like I mean, full stop, which was fascinating. And I know that that person was also not the only Halo developer that is working on Marathon by any stretch of the imagination. So just know that that's not entirely true. Although Bungie is very different now, there's a lot of old school Halo blood involved. That's all I'm going to say. And so with that said, I'm going to round this video up there. Hopefully you guys got some new details about Marathon from this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Let me know what your current thoughts are on Marathon down below in the comments. I would really like to hear it, especially with this new information that's come out. I mean, granted, it's not gameplay, but let me hear your thoughts down below in the comments. And so with that said, I want to give a huge thank you to Leonardo for becoming a new Primordial over on Patreon, and to Yesc, Fervan Lopin, and Lucas Bjorck Vinje? I'm going to say Vinje, for becoming new iconic ones over on Patreon. My friends, thank you all very, very, very much. Quite an iconic video to be inducted into the iconic ones and the Primordials, I'd say. Thank you very, very much. And with that said, I want to give you all a massive thank you for watching this video. Bit of a different one, but quite an exciting video to make. Really hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll catch you all in the next one.